Big round of applause for Bastian Allgeier.
Marcus is crazy. I'm totally humbled by his introduction, and I think I should take this chance and really thank them, Mark and Yoshi and the entire team for creating this event. I think it's really great what they did, and especially for 30 euros, right? It's amazing. And I mean, we should also thank the kids team, because obviously the 30 euros have only been possible because he's using child labor. Maybe next time you should ask for 40 or something, and then you could have some real stuff. Okay, let's start this. This summer, I felt to be in a huge geek bubble more than ever. I joined Twitter about 5 or 6 years ago, I don't really know, and I have to confess that I'm an addicted. I switch to it constantly, and it's really a mess. And I somehow try to get away from it, and I even removed it from my dock, but it appears there all the time, and I don't know how that happens. And so on Twitter, what most people don't get, who don't use Twitter, is that you really get to know people who you follow by what they post. You get to know how they think about different aspects of life, about religion, politics, about various stuff. And I think it's very interesting to follow people there. And the more people you follow and the longer you follow them, the easier it gets to somehow think that your timeline is a reflection of society. And of course, this is not true, right? Because what you tend to do is to follow people who think in a similar way that you do, or inspire you in a way they think. And so it's much more a reflection of the community or the group we are part of. And in this community, we had a hero, we have a hero, and we all followed very closely what he revealed in the last month. So I hope you appreciate my Photoshop skills here. And you could really feel how everybody was shocked by what he revealed. Because what he revealed affected us all so much. It was just crazy to see how deeply the NSA and the US government undermined the web that we love so much. And so you could see that everybody was trying their very best to share every article about it and discuss it, and everybody was really, really affected by this. And according to my Twitter timeline, oh, that didn't went too well. According to my Twitter timeline, we should have all been on the streets this summer, fighting for our rights, fighting for privacy, fighting for freedom of speech and against total observation by governments and secret services. But this didn't happen. And I was naively enough to think that this topic would be important enough to swap outside the geek bubble. But instead, you could see that the people outside the geek bubble were somehow relying on what the news coverage is showing them and telling them about this topic. And it was part of the news, but you somehow got this feeling that it was more part of what we call in Germany the summer hole, where they mix random stuff like killer turtles in Bavarian lakes and Boris Becker writing new books and things like that. And somehow those gossip news overshadow the stuff that is really important, and this is how I felt this summer. And you could clearly see that as well, how our government reacted on this. They supported this, and they did their very best to make us believe, or those people outside the bubble believe at least, that this is not really a topic we have to care about. They have this under control, right? They flew to America, and they talked to the president, and now everything is fixed, and we don't have to worry. And I love how this changed just 2 days ago, when Mrs. Merkel had to learn that her phone is tapped as well. And I love how the reactions suddenly changed. So it has been totally fine with them that the entire country is being observed, but it's a completely different thing if you listen to the chancellor, right? That is not something you do. This is completely out of control, and we have to do something about this. It's not right. And yet I think that this will not lead to a big change. I think that this will be forgotten soon. They will somehow fix it and get back into political peace and just talk it out some way. And I think we are still being confronted with the beginning of a new era. Of a new era in which it is widely accepted or ignored that we are under total observation by governments, secret services, and corporations. And this is a big deal. You might say that this is known for ages. We know that we are being observed and that every step we take is somehow being surveilled. But the big difference is that this has only been a part of conspiracy theories so far. It has been the part of stories of weirdos or Dan Brown books, and so nothing really official. And for the first time in our history, it's really official. It's out there now. We just accept this somehow. It's there, and we have to live with it. And I love the Postillon, and I guess most of you do. It's somehow the equivalent to The Onion in Germany, and you have to read what they wrote yesterday. They went crazy, and it was just a huge feast for them, and they enjoyed it so much, and you do that. Go to the Postillon and read the stories of yesterday. But there's a headline from a couple of weeks ago, and I really love it. Conspiracy theorist believes that he's not being observed. And this is brilliant because it completely shows how our world has tipped upside down. So I'm very much worried about our future because we can never know what this will lead to. This is just the beginning. And I'm worried about the future of my son. He's 10 months old now, and I always try to imagine what he will be facing in 10, 15 years, 20 years from now, and how this current situation will affect him in his reality. And I'm also worried because I know that he will grow up with this being accepted by everybody and just part of our society. So we always had this illusion, at least, that we are free, and this is somehow over, in my opinion. So I have this nightmare vision of the future, that he will go to school and attend history lessons, and one day he will come to me and learn about this. And he might ask, Dad, why did nobody react when all those details about the NSA were leaked? And I'm not sure how to react on that or what I would answer him in that situation. And what I find so disturbing is that we are a country with some dark chapters in our history. And we should know that those kind of situations can deeply affect us if something goes wrong. We can never know what the government will be in the future. We had a far-right party that almost made it to the Bundestag, so this is pretty critical, I think. And so it will only matter to people if it starts to hurt. And we can't risk to let that happen, and we should know that. It's not very long ago that people were affected by this, and people were harmed and in jail because of total observation, and we should always be aware of that. So, whose fault is it? How could that happen? And that's some bad news. I think that the web industry has a big responsibility for this, a big part of the responsibility. Those who built the web somehow destroy the web, and I believe in this, that this is the current situation. And this slide from the NSA scandal shows it clearer than everything else. It's the slide where they, in their internal presentation, listed all the companies that took part in the Surveillance Act. And this is, on the first side, it's just a bunch of companies. But if you look closer, it's the idols of our industry. It's the success stories of our industry, those who we always been looking up to, those who started in garages and came up with a vision and then grew into something really, really big. And I think this is really bad. And Aral Balkan is talking about this in his talk, and he's touring with this talk. And who has seen this talk already? Oh, just a couple. I can really recommend watch this. It's an amazing talk. And he calls this digital feudalism. This is what we are currently facing. We are controlled by a couple huge giants in our industry, and they have almost all the data that we put on the web. And he talks about how we stand at a crossroads, and we have to decide if we go into the direction of a future of digital feudalism, where even more big monopolies control everything on the web, or if we go to a different kind of future where the open web is what we are heading for. And I think this entire situation right now has made it very easy. Digital feudalism, as we already face it, has made it very easy for the NSA to spy on us. Because they could just move to those companies and say, okay, we need your support, we need to gather all the data. They didn't even have to do something about it. And this could only happen because we somehow degraded from an industry of pioneers to an industry of bandwagon jumpers. In the beginning, it was all about exploring the possibilities and the opportunities this new medium gave us. So it was about finding new ways of social interaction, of communication, connecting people on different continents, and seeing all those great opportunities that we have with the open web. This is for everyone. This was the initial idea, and everyone was so idealistic about this. But at some point, we saw big successes, and the pioneers became successful with what they did. And you could see them grow, and you could see how they made something out of this. And I feel like a lot of people in the startup industry have stopped innovating at that point. And instead of being pioneers again, they just try to copy the successes that they've seen from others. It was, even if this medium is so young, we already started copying and remixing ideas. We want to build the next Facebook or the next Facebook for blah, blah, blah. This is the most used and the most annoying sentence in the startup industry. And it's incredibly annoying. I could just punch those people in the face. Because what it shows is that we are an industry of bandwagon jumpers, and not only the startup industry is an industry of bandwagon jumpers, also those people who just build websites for their clients started to support those platforms and started to try to become a part of the success. So this is actually what we do in the end. We just try to get a piece of the cake. And we all started to include those social media buttons that Vitaly talked about and nobody likes, but we included them for our clients because we somehow thought it would do something good for our clients. And we started to build Facebook sites for them and all that kind of stuff. And the third-party developers, the indie developers, jumped on board of the big platforms and started to support them even more and use their APIs to build their applications, all this kind of stuff. Twitter wouldn't have the kind of success it now has, and Facebook wouldn't have the success that it now has if it wasn't about third-party developers supporting them and building clients and building integrations and all this kind of things. So in the end, we all are just trying to take a bit of the cake out for ourselves. And so right now, I think that has led to an industry in which the most intelligent people waste their time on building crap. You can't change the world with a to-do app or something like that. But the good news is, those who build the web can change the web. And I truly believe in this. It seems intimidating, but we are in a situation, we always have to remember that there are huge platforms like MySpace, for example, who died within a couple months. So it's not all lost yet. We just have to stop at this point and reconsider how we should move forward. And I think it has to stop that we carelessly just keep on building data silos, because this is what we do. Any new startup that you can see is building on the same kind of ideas, that you sign up for it and your users, you as a user give them all the data you have and just share it with them. And we have to stop that. But at the same time, it has become more clearer than ever in the last years that we need our own digital homes. I think the mobile revolution was only possible because we have had this chance to connect our devices and sync our devices. And if there wasn't this chance to use the cloud as a way to connect our mobile devices with our desktop devices, our smartphones would be pretty much useless. We would still be in this age of exchanging data with USB sticks, and nobody wants to go back to that. So what is the alternative we have? Self-hosted. Well, and this is the big problem. It's not the solution. So, yeah. Whenever I start to talk about this, people come to me and say, just install OwnCloud, it's awesome, it replaces all the things that you have on the web, and you don't have to care about this kind of stuff. And it's not an alternative. Everybody who ever tried to replace things like Google Mail or Dropbox, or all those kind of services we are so used to with self-hosted alternatives or open source alternatives knows what a mess this is. And Oral is giving a reason in his talk why this happened. And I think there are two reasons, and I'm going to talk about the second one. But the first one is that we still face this issue that the open source community is completely detached from the design community. There's still this huge gap between those two fields, and there are still a lot of fights going on. And somehow designers are not interested in open source projects, and somehow open source developers are not interested in focusing on design and user experience. And that is a big issue. And as I said, Oral is talking about this in his talk, and you really go and watch it. And there's another issue, and I think it's an even more important one. If you think about what you have to know if you want to build an iPhone application or an Android application, it's quite clear what you have to know. You have to know the programming language is clear, the set of APIs is clear that you have, the platform is clear. There are only a couple of variables that are not clear, and they are pretty minor. So if you were building an iPhone application, the biggest issue somehow is the compatibility with different iOS versions and maybe screen sizes nowadays if you want to build something for the iPad and iPhone 4 and iPhone 5. And it's more fragmented on Android, but you still end up developing for a very specific platform. And on the web, it's the same thing. If you want to build a website, you have HTML, you have CSS, and you have JavaScript. And the biggest problem we tend to whine so much about is browser compatibility. But this is something that we can get control of, and it's minor compared to what you are facing if you want to build a self-hosted application. Because with a self-hosted application, you don't even know where to start from. You're faced with some so fundamental issues that you have to solve that you can never focus on polishing your app and making it easy to use for people, because you have to care about which kind of language do I use. Is it available on the servers of my target group? Which kind of database system? The extensions that should be installed on the server, all those kind of things. Installation, updates are super complicated to build, and all those various parts that shouldn't be something that you worry about as an app developer. And if this was not worse enough, if you want to build a self-hosted application, you are confronted with a very geeky target audience. And I can only do this because I look exactly the same if I pull off my shirt, which I'm not going to do. So there's a problem that it's not really worth to take all the hassle for the tiny audience that you are facing. And yet, I think it's the only way. Because the more you think about it, hosted services all have the same problem. Even if the team behind it has the best intentions it can ever have, you are always relying on their decisions. and you are relying on their professionalism, is that a word? I'm not sure, and on them making money. And Arad is talking about it, and if they don't make money out of it, if they don't have a business model, then you're probably selling your data to them, and they can use it in whatever way, and they will probably use it to monetize it and make money out of it. But fortunately, there are some good examples of self-hosted applications. And this one is a startup from Hamburg, which is really, really cool, and you should check it out. It's called Protonet. And what they do is they give you a full server. It looks like this. It's orange. It's pretty cool. And you put it in the office, and it has just one button, and you fire it up, and you connect it to your network, and then it takes care of setting all the setup, and you can connect to it from your iPhone, from your Android, from the browser, and it gives you a full set of productivity tools for your team. So it's mostly targeted at agencies or smaller teams. And you somehow get a little bit of a self-hosted Basecamp, but it looks completely different. It looks awesome. The design is really, really nice. I had no chance to test it yet, but I could just judge it from the screenshots, and they look very promising. And I learned about this by Eric Spiekermann, who wrote about it on Twitter. So he ordered one for his agency, and I hope he will write a little review about this. But what you can see there is this is only possible to be as polished as it is because they have full control over everything. They control the hardware and they control the software part, and they can focus on building great applications for this box because they, of course, know the technology stack they are writing for. Another example is the file transporter, which has been funded on Kickstarter successfully. And it's also very awesome. It's a replacement for Dropbox, a self-hosted replacement for Dropbox. And it works in the same way. You put it on your table, and you connect it with the network, and you can store files directly on it, or you can attach external drives, and it will take care of syncing those with your computer. And it feels exactly like Dropbox. You have a folder in your Finder or in your Windows Explorer, and you can drop files onto it, and then it will sync those. And even more awesome, you can buy multiple of those devices and put it in different locations. So for example, one at home, one in your office, one at your friend's house or whatever. You can even share the devices between friends and colleagues. And then it will take care of syncing data between those devices as well and make a redundant backup for you. But if you think this through, those devices are awesome, but if you think this through, you would end up with a very big table with lots of those devices. So you would have a device for a to-do app, and you would have a device for a Dropbox alternative, and you would have a device for email and whatever. So this is definitely not the solution. What we need is a common foundation for all the possible alternatives, something that we can be sure of and develop for. And right now, I think we face a puzzle. I tried to find one of the most cheesiest puzzle I could find, so yeah. And it's a technology puzzle. The open source community is very good in coming up with solutions for isolated problems. And most solutions you see are targeted at hosted services. They are targeted at teams who have a sysadmin working for them and making sure that all those puzzle pieces fit together and that they are set up in the best way. And the sysadmin is the one who decides which kind of puzzle pieces to use. But what we have to do right now is to take those puzzle pieces and come up with a finished platform where you don't have to care about this kind of stuff. Because for a self-hosted application, a self-hosted platform, you don't have a sysadmin. There's no such thing. And so what we have to do is to connect those loose ends. And in order to do that, I think we have to think outside the box. The motto for Beyond Tellerrand and Border None. And the more I think about it, the more I'm sure that thinking outside the box is only possible with dreaming. Because the more professional we get, the more limitations we consider when thinking about new ideas. And this is super hard to switch off. And in dreams, when you just dream about something, how awesome it would be to have this, it's a completely different thing, because you can just make up something and you don't have to care if it's realistic yet. You can just dream of it, and then you might end up with something that is even more realistic than it might seem at the beginning. And a team of people who is doing this are the Hoodie guys. Who of you knows Hoodie? Oh, not very much. Okay, so check out hoodie.ie. Is it readable? I hope so. It's a bunch of people from Berlin and from all over the world. And they have this idea of coming up with a front-end library that enables JavaScript developers, front-end developers, to build full applications without having to touch the back end. And the project is awesome. You really have to check it out. And in order to come up with the API for that library, or for the APIs for this library, what they do is something they call dream code. And in their words, they say, forget all the constraints of today's browsers, then write down the code of your dreams for all the tasks you need to build your app. This is dream code, and you can find it on nobackend.org. And this is how dream code looks. I hope it's big enough. So what they did, they didn't start to build something. They started with the APIs, and they started to design those APIs. And I like that they consider themselves so much designers and not only developers. So they thought about what the most awesome APIs would be for their idea for this front-end library. And so they designed them as long as it took to really make them polished and usable and simple. So simplicity is their first goal. And this is just an example. They have an array of those examples on their site. And then in the end, when they were happy with the APIs, they tried to reverse engineer it. And I really love that approach. And so I started my own dream. That started in January when it was a crazy idea, and it never let me go. And this is not a pitch. This is not something I will sell you. This is not something I could build or I would found a startup of. But this is something I think could be a solution, and so I want to get it out there and just share it, and maybe there will be people who join me or use this as a ground for something to come up with. And I think the only solution to self-hosted alternatives for an open web would be an open server OS for self-hosted web applications and services, which combines all those puzzle pieces. And I found a working title, I called it Grand Decentral Station, and I started to write about it at decentralize.it, so you can check that out if you want. And it's really just a concept so far. But this is how it would work. We would all have our server. Pretty crazy, right? We would all connect our devices with that server, and that server would connect with others. And so it would build a truly distributed system. And this could start in various flavors. So it might be something that hosting companies would support, and they would help manage hosting for this. So you could just sign up there and choose a plan and then get a server there, and everything is just set up for you. Or those who are already into this kind of self-hosted thing and want to install it on your own server could do that as well. But of course, the idea is that we end up with either the managed thing, so it would be very simple, or the box that is sitting on our desks, and that would be the foundation for all this kind of solutions. And as I said, it's just a concept. But I think what is important with whatever we come up is that we reduce this technical level that we now have with all those open technology, and find a solution that is as usable for people as the iPhones are, the iPad is, or the Android devices are, so that people wouldn't really think of this as a server. So in the end, we could have something like this, a very simple interface where they could install applications and update applications and make some very small changes at the configuration. So maybe add a new email address or connect another domain or something like that. And the system would handle all the tough parts for the user and also the tough parts for the developer. So it would take care of installation updates and also updates of the system so that we can make sure that it's always at the latest version and it's always safe, and it would take care of the configuration and spinning up different servers. So we would have a mail server or a CalDev server, all those kinds of servers that would integrate with the clients we already have. But the most important thing about is that that this would happen in the same seamless way that we see it on the devices we already have. And on the other side, we would have a set of powerful APIs for developers. So they could focus on building applications and polished applications. And it would follow the no backend philosophy that Hoodie introduces, because I think this is the future, to get away with the difficulties that we have if we think about building backends and all this kind of stuff, trying to make it very, very easy for people to build things and give access with a front-end library similar to Hoodie or whatever, maybe a future version of Hoodie, to all the services and functionality of the OS that the OS offers. And so in the best case, you would never have to touch the backend again. So this is a draft for how app packaging could work. You would just pull together all the HTML files and the JavaScript files and all the assets for the application, and then you would combine it with a JSON file, pretty much like what we already know from Firefox OS. I think they have a similar system. And I think with whatever kind of system we come up, it's very important that it would be business model able in the first place. I made this up. So that there would be a chance for developers to charge for their applications. So you could set a price in that app packaging, and the system would take care of directing the users to payment services like Stripe or whatever, and so that developers could focus on build things for this platform, because this is another issue that we have right now. Open source technology somehow doesn't work together with paid applications. It's somehow like something you don't do. But what we often see is that open source projects get started and they get abandoned again pretty quickly because people cannot focus on improving those or bringing them forward because they don't have the time to do that. They somehow have to make money and they somehow have to pay for their bills and for the family. And so what we need is to get this gap between paid applications and open source software out of the way and offer the possibilities to build open source applications that people pay for. So let's just pretend that this would be possible. And let's just pretend that it would be a success, because of course, with every startup, with every idea on the web, this is something you cannot be sure of, and this is especially crazy in this place. But let's just pretend it would work, and we could, as a web developer community, or the web community, we could agree on a system, and we could agree on a puzzle and something that could be really useful for people. Think about this would get attention. Early adopters would use it first, the web community would use it first, and with the rise of cool application for this, it might have the chance to swap outside of the geek bubble and get people interested in it. And so let's just pretend that the net of grand decentral stations, or however it would be called in the future, would spread. There are so many things that would only be possible with such a system or with such a net, a distributed net, that are not possible now. The idea of diaspora has been amazing. The idea of Tent.io is amazing. But they all suffer from the same problem that I told about earlier. They suffer from the geekiness and not having a platform for normal people to use this. So of course, this would not be a silver bullet. There would still be many use cases where the distributed network wouldn't work. all those aggregation sites like Flickr or Dribbble or even GitHub, where people publicly share stuff and they would still want to share those kind of stuff and see what others build. But there would be a huge difference if we had such kind of web. And the difference would be that we would decide what we want to share, and those sites would only have to care about our public data that we want to share and put out there. And they wouldn't have to care about the private data that we want to keep secure, and they wouldn't have to keep it secure for us. And so we could always revoke access to them, and we could have in control what happens with our data, and this is a big, big difference. However we move forward into the direction of an open web, and I hope that we move forward to an open web. And with every open source project that might be an alternative, we have always to consider a couple things. Nobody will ever use this or any other project if it's more expensive, more complicated, more ugly, or more inconvenient than what we already have. People don't take steps back. They only take steps forward. And it's somehow hard to accept, but this somehow sets the line or the limit that we have to aim for. Because security or technology or features are not really a USP. Those are not reasons why people go for something. It might be giving them a good feeling in the end, if it's more secure, if it helps to nurture encrypted communication between people, and if it would make it harder for people, for the NSA to spy on us. But that will never be a reason why people go for this, and I think we have to, accept it. So it's a dream, and I see this as a chance to encourage everybody out there to come up with your own dreams and reconsider what we are currently working on and how we want to move on and what we want to move the web forward, how we want to move the web forward. And of course, it's intimidating to think about all the huge giants that we are currently facing. But you always have to remember that your crazy dreams of today can be reality tomorrow, and the crazy dreams of yesterday are the reality that we are currently facing. So just dream it and then go for it, and at least go for it, because we really need a change here. If it's not us doing something, then nobody will do something. Thank you very much.